You may have heard that Venice started charging day trippers an entry fee to the city at peak times. Costs €5, about £4.20 a day. Officials have revealed the trial scheme raised an amazing amount of money, about £2 million in the space of a month. And they're now looking to potentially double the charge next summer. So I'm wondering if we should do something similar here. I've got to get my old high vis on. You've got to imagine this. So I would be basically the ticket master, OK, or ticket mistress, depending on how I felt. And I'd be on in some sort of ticket booth. And what we've got to hope is that visitors are really committed to visiting Britain. And therefore they will pay the amounts required. And this guy can't even get his high-vis jacket on. There we go. Now we're squawking. Tickets sold here. Right, where are my tickets? I haven't got my tickets. I need a box of tickets. Very good, Ella. Don't worry. Going through the fourth wall there. OK. Right, first gentleman, customer here.
Hello.
So, what can I interest you in?
Fancy Cambridge,
well,
actually.
I'm showing Cambridge. It is lovely, that. It's a lovely river, and they got a bridge over it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so it'll be £8 a day. How many days are you going for?
That seems a lot. Have you got anywhere cheaper?
I could do you Oxford for £6.90.
OK,
all right.
OK,
there we go, sir. Next customer, please. Hello. I've got a load of tickets here. It's one ticket per day.
OK, can I get one for Cornwall, please?
Cornwall, of course you can. I'm thinking you like this beach. It's a great old beach, that, actually. There's a lot of space on it, and the waves are lapping.
Lovely, yeah,
OK?
please.
It's £9 a day.
Oh, have you got anything slightly cheaper?
I can do Skegness for £6.
Fair enough.
All right, off you go. Next customer, please. Well, why not? And madam, hello. Where would you like to go?
I've always wanted to go to Edinburgh.
Edinburgh. Let's have a look at Edinburgh. Oh, come on in a bit further if you don't mind. Enjoy the view there, though. Seriously, that's a castle. So that'd be, well, Edinburgh's crowded, what with the fringe. I'm going to say it's £13.50 today, actually. £13.50, yeah.
I think I might have to leave that.
Well, where else? I could do you Swindon for £1. All right, Swindon, there we go. You'll have a good time there. That's the magic roundabout. Well done. So that's how it would work. If you sold tickets to places, obviously they would be different grades of place. I mean, that's a brutal old market, that. You know, if you're a place where you'd start charging and nobody comes, Ayesha.
Yeah,
what
but
do you think? You look staggered. You look stunned by the acting skills there.
Honestly, I mean, if there are any casting directors,
the brilliant researchers on the show. We're all to blame for that.
Look, I think that I can understand why a lot of these big hotspots have started charging people. Yes, it is very good for the local economy, tourism, but there is also quite a big cost in terms of like people, you know, leaving litter and all that kind of thing. Also, sometimes people come in on like the cruise ships for the day, but they don't actually buy a lot of like food or things like that. They kind of have a wander around. So I am quite sympathetic to this idea. It's something actually that quite a few regional mayors have mentioned to me. They'd like to be able to do a bit of a tourist tax. They know money is tight. That Rachel Reeve's not going to give them any more money out of the Treasury. You know, they feel that if they could raise a bit of revenue, that could sort of help with the city or the area. So I'm kind of sympathetic, provided it's not really high.
I just came back from Greece and I noticed when I paid the hotel bill, they had a chart, I think £2 per day per person. Now, there's 4 of us, so it's £8 a day times 6 days. You know, it was like 25 quid or whatever. It seemed like a lot, but then, I don't know, Venice can charge, can't it? We don't necessarily have a Venice, Christian.
Well,
that's the trouble.
Exactly, and, you know, if I remember my A-level economics correctly, there's a thing called elasticity of demand, which implies that the more the price goes up, the demand will fall. And there are some areas like Venice, like Verona or Rome or Greece or Paris that would have quite inelastic demand.
Meaning that they'll always have...
And they'll always have a demand there.
Well, then why don't they charge... Seriously, let's just think about Venice. If you were running Venice, you'd charge £100 a day per person.
I think Venice is a particularly special case because they're literally sinking because of the amount of footfall that they get. I mean, that's very... but it's also an incredibly beautiful city in a way that I think London and Manchester probably could look at getting away with it. The problem you get into...
I love the comparison of Manchester and Venice. Just keep going. It has got a canal.
They've got canals.
It's true, and Venice did not have Joy Division. That's true. That's true.
And Tory conference doesn't happen in Venice, unfortunately. No. But, you know, you look at... if in that case, right, for example, Skegness, if they bring in a tourism tax, why would someone go there when they could go to Clacton? Or they could go to Bournemouth or somewhere else. There are areas where they would start risking, depending on the level it's set.
Well,
and that's
Cambridge would be one which has got... I mean,
but in terms of your price elasticity, which I get the point, but sometimes that sort of doesn't... Like, sometimes that goes into reverse, where sometimes if a place is the place to be, people pay crazy price.
Yeah.
So you'd have to... So let's say the Edinburgh Festival, I go up there very regularly, I've performed at the Edinburgh Fringe. Edinburgh, beautiful city, it is a nightmare during the Fringe. And it's a nightmare for local people. They can't get around, you can't get into... That is the kind of thing where you could actually charge a bit of a tax. Or so when things are... When you know that you would get the money. Or, for example, somebody in Liverpool said that when they had all the Eurovision, right, that would actually have been really good to just charge people maybe £2 a day or something. That would have brought in a lot of revenue for Liverpool when there's peak demand.
There are 2 points I've actually... Firstly, as I understand it, the UK's tourism sector has not bounced back in terms of visitors post-COVID as much as other European...
Post-Brexit.
...countries have. I'm not sure about Brexit. Certainly COVID.
I think Brexit's
in a way, we already
too.
charge a tourism tax because unlike a lot of countries, we don't allow tourists to claim back VAT on purchases, and there are lots of businesses
paintings
that say actually if we want people to come here and enjoy.
In London, they tend to be and the Bicester villages. That's not like all across the country.
No, but if you want rich foreigners to come here and spend their money. And part of that is if they want to buy a Rolex, then why would they choose London over Paris?
Let's just talk about whether it's possible. Certain hotspots, maybe, Grimsby, Skegness, maybe don't have the pressure of tourist demand to be able to charge everyone £4 a day, but maybe York does. Al is in York. Hello, Al.
Oh, good morning, Jeremy. Yes, I live in York, and it's a massive hotspot.
Yeah.
Particularly for the Hen and Stag weekend.
Wow.
One street, Piccadilly, has 450 rooms on it alone. If you charge £3 a room, that's 70 grand, a year just for that one. And that would certainly help not just York's problems where its budgets have been slashed, but it would also help pay for the clean-up operation.
Yeah. When you say one street, you mean a street that is Airbnb street, basically, is it, or what?
No, that's a street just of Main Street hotels.
Oh, hotels. I'm sorry. So we're talking about beds here, basically, because actually Blackpool, I was in a couple of years ago, and the Royal Mile in Blackpool has something, someone said like 15,000 beds. I mean, they've got the capacity for 1930s holidays. Hopefully that city will come back. But do you not worry you'll put people off, Al, if you charge them for coming to York on a stag weekend?
But if they're coming for a stag weekend and they're being charged an extra £3 for their room, then you're talking about less than a pint of beer.
I know, but what if Durham, which is, of course, a more beautiful city, if Durham...
Absolute shock. Outrageous, Jeremy.
If Durham were to say, look, skip York, because it's free to come here, and they start competing with you?
Well, that's a tough question, but I tell you what, the problems in York at a weekend, very few locals actually go into York.
Well, yeah. No, I hear you.
And the litter
Thanks,
and
Al.
cleaning up and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, maybe it is. Maybe it's a thing. Maybe the answer is you just charge people when they arrive at the airport. You say, look, I'm sorry, everybody, but this whole... I think Bill Bryson said that if the UK was in America, the whole country would be a theme park.
I mean, the other problem is, do we trust councils to spend this money properly? Now, I know there are funding problems, but, some councils are very poorly run, and I know there are probably local residents across the country who think, I do not want my incompetent local councillors taxing people and then spending it on pet projects that cost a lot of money.
Well, I don't know. I think that's a slightly nihilistic argument, because I think many people could say, well, we've just had a really incompetent government for 14 years. Do we just not pay our taxes to the government? That's the democracy we have. I take your point. I take your point about local councils not being very good, but that would be us saying, I'm not going to pay my council tax. I don't trust you. It doesn't work like that.
No, but hang on. If they're fundraising and the money goes to, let's say, council officers' pensions, then you'd say, wait, what was the point of all that?
But that goes back to the conversation we just had about the child benefit. I mean, everybody has a gripe about where money goes. Everybody thinks that money is not spent in the best possible way. But if you're going to go down that road, then you basically say, well, I'm not going to pay any tax. I don't trust
All
these
be
people. Yeah,
libertarians.
exactly.
Neil is in West Yorkshire. West Yorkshire now. Some beautiful spots there, Neil.
Yes, there is, Jeremy.
Yeah. So would you bring in some tourist tax just for hot spots in the UK, thinking about Edinburgh and Brighton?
Possibly so. I mean, we get ripped off all over. I mean, I'm fortunate. I've travelled quite a lot. I was in Rome beginning of this month, and I had to pay €7.40 tourist tax per person per night to stay in Rome.
Per person per night.
Up to
That
10 days.
really adds up, doesn't it?
After 10 days, it were free. Or if you're in hospital, it were free. You go to Singapore, you've Singapore tax and sales tax. You go to Florida, your Florida sales tax. And coming back, you see it in this country, you go to Stratford-on-Avon, tax-free things for our tourist friends.
Yeah.
We get
Well, if
ripped
you
off.
watch what's happening, Mallorca is now the centre of this story, really, and they've been deluged by tourists. They've got 10% more than they had 10 years ago. Everything's more expensive. There's nowhere to live if you're a local, and they're trying to work out how they stop people coming. And this is probably the answer, isn't it?
I think we spoke about this the last time I was on, Jeremy, that there's an element, you see them in Mallorca and in Spain and other areas where a lot of Brits go and they complain that we fill up all their homes and we fill all their pubs and we behave poorly. But there's an element to which you cannot afford to get rid of tourists, because if you look at places like Blackpool and Britain's seaside resorts, what happens when the tourism dries up? It's a double-edged sword, and you may come to regret being so hostile to them.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you all. Later, the papers and everything else.